Oh, it's another episode of the Bad Pipes Podcast. It's me, Andrew.
And it's me, Scott. And RIP to the man who's no longer with us,
He died
Isaac.
in a tragic closet
RIP.
belt session.
No, he's down in South Florida doing
Second
work.
EA on a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. You see, we're here at the Bad Pipes Podcast. We don't just talk about films. We
one guy.
We have actual real life experience. 1/3 of the podcast has real life experience.
All right, so it's the final Acolyte episode this week, and I guess a general sort of series recap. And Hot D. Hot D was actually good, so I'm one of those good news
start with Hot D.
kind of guys.
Yeah, well, I feel like typically when it's good, you have less to talk about.
True. It's one of those, when you're in management,
Yeah.
you're always like, make sure you tell people when they're doing a good job, because a lot of the times you don't notice a good job happening because things are just smooth and unnoticeable. That said, This episode of Hot D, I don't know why that felt like it was about to be a fucking ad read. This episode of Hot D is brought to you by Fisherman's Friend.
It did kind of sound like that. No, Hot D ramping up.
So last week's episode was pretty high octane. This week, they toned it on a little bit. Lots of very interesting conversations going on. Pieces moving on the board.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
All hail King Aemon, huh?
Or, what would his term be?
I think they were referring to him, for the time being, they were referring to him as Prince Regent.
Yeah. So you got the Prince Regent,
Yeah.
You got the King Consort, you got all sorts of titles being moved around here.
Yeah. That's I do enjoy that. That's a very interesting dynamic that they have, because I mean they've already built parallels between Aemon and Daemon, and I mean for those of us who know things, we know I think that's a good thing to build on. But yeah, no, I think it's interesting that it's very clear they both are in this power struggle where they vie, and they know they believe they could be a good leader. They want the power.
I mean,
and they're in this one
like
lesser
Aemon
position.
Is definitely the better regent than his brother, the king. Whereas,
for sure,
with this episode, you're definitely getting the feeling that Daemon is like a battlefield commander kind of guy, and not at all a politicking guy. And you see that with like every time he does something, he pisses off like everyone.
Yeah, he's it seems like he's losing it a little bit there.
Yeah, too. There's like the potion that he's been drinking. And I've heard some interesting theories on that it's like got something to do with the weirwoods. And if I remember correctly, weirwood sap looks like blood. And whenever you see her concocting it, Alice the witch, it does look like she has blood on her hands. So
that would make sense that the sap's like, because I mean you see it like whenever you see like the faces, like they're like crying blood. It would make sense that like sap is like bloody like that.
And even with Bran, in Game of Thrones, or even in the books, the first time he has the potion kind of stuff, they put the weirwood, I'm guessing sap, in it, and it looks like blood. So I think there's some interesting things going on with the weirwoods. Clearly the weirwoods, there's a lot to them if you really dig into the nitty-gritty of the Game of Thrones kind of world. It is interesting to see some very like supernatural sort of aspects coming into the show. There's a lot of like symbolism in his dreams too. a lot of the things that happen in his dreams end up affecting his actions in the real life.
Yeah,
it's just like, even with this episode being kind of slow, it's very interesting to watch.
No, yeah, it's I don't know, this was a good one because like we see the fallout of the battle. Like, you know, you have Aegon, who's I mean he's basically on death's doorstep. You know, they're just not sure if he's going to survive. And so you have the power struggle there. You obviously have Rhaenyra, who's like trying to hold on. Like, I mean, you're so outmatched at this point. And so, I mean, I feel like that's what a lot of this is like she's realized how outmatched she is, what they're lacking as far as resources and men and, you know, strength with the dragons and the dragon riders. So yeah, I mean, it's a good building episode for like, here's where all the power struggles are, and like, where do we go from here?
It's the calm in the middle of the storm, it feels like, because it definitely feels like it's going to get way more hectic after this at some point.
Yeah, well, now it's kind of like, you know, the culmination of the episode is with, you know, her and Jace kind of having that conversation of like, okay, well, we lack dragon riders, but like where can we find some? And it's just kind of like, oh, well, like, what about people who are like of the bloodline, just like faintly, you know, some other distant descendants of Targaryens.
Yeah, and so that's where the
you get the
come in.
Yep, and that's where you get the feeling of like, oh, like this battle happened, and yeah, it could be ramping down, but like, oh, if they go get like, if they decide to, you know, recruit these, you know, the dragon seed, like get other people to ride dragons.
That's why there's
like,
been focus on certain
you
characters.
Could just escalate.
Too. The guy who's like one of the engineers for the weapons that the Aegon has been making, like pretty clearly at some point he's got to be a dragon rider, because otherwise, why do they keep putting so much attention on him? And he's got the hair, so it just makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's that definitely make, like, because you kind of look at it, you're just like, why do we have like these random little like side stories of people? And I feel like, yeah, it's all going to kind of come together. I think it's a good, they're doing a very good job of storytelling. Someone's doing it. Someone's doing a good job of storytelling. In that, instead of just throwing something in there that's like, here's this fucking thing, like instead of just being like, oh, we're gonna go find these like descendants, these dragon seeds, here's this fucking guy, like they've introduced him subtly, and we get to build on that.
Be a stranger that pops in randomly, and people are saying,
yeah,
where'd this guy come from?
Yeah. So I feel like we get a lot of that in television nowadays. We get a lot of
thing happens because plot needs
just throw someone in there.
This show feels like,
yeah. Well, you can just subvert expectations if you don't give anyone anything to, like, if you don't do foreshadowing, you can just subvert expectations all the time. You know, fuck foreshadowing or any sort of like, you know, plot device. Like, we don't. I feel like they just throw everything out the window now. I feel like we're already getting into acolyte rants here, but, you know,
we'll just writing lesson that Matt Parker and Trey Stone, the South Park guys, do, where they were saying a lot of the time in TV nowadays, the way things are written, it goes something like A happens, and then B happens, and then C happens, and then D happens. And they said, whenever we're writing South Park episodes, we make sure we're not doing that. We go, A happens, and then because A happens, B happens. And because B happens, C happens. And because that happened, D happens. So there's more of a cause and effect of the storytelling. And you can see that whenever you watch South Park episodes, too. But it's also prevalent in good dramatic narratives like this show has been presenting. So it's just like really refreshing and nice. This show is just like a fucking after dinner mint.
Yeah. Okay. You know, it really works when you have actual source material to base the show off of, and you can really put your whole bussy into it.
Clearly we're liking House of the Dragon. We thought this was a very good episode, but you very clearly have strong feelings about Acolyte that are bleeding through the kyber crystal of this conversation.
Oh, that was a really good transition. That was so good.
All right, so this episode,
it was so good, but it's so bad.
Opens up with Soul after his conversation with May, which was basically the entire last episode. The issue with that is that most everyone who watched the last episode, so episode 7, most everyone was like, oh, actually, it seems like the Jedi's actions were pretty justified. Yeah.
Yeah, the Jedi in this, I don't really know what they... I look at them and I'm just kind of like, oh, they're just... Yeah, you don't get a sense of like... They're very flat. And I mean, that's not just Vanestra, who's like literally the flattest performance of the entire show.
Most excited her acting gets is like irritated eye blinking before she turns around. And you're like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. But no, I mean, we have all these Jedi of different, like, species, race. Like we have so much variety in there. You're getting your diversity, you know, but then it falls flat because like there feels like there's no purpose behind them. Like, I think you had potential where it's kind of like you might have had a potential in the show earlier when it's kind of like, hey, like there's something going on, they've got to come up there, you know, Soul's recruiting a team. You could have gone somewhere with it. But I feel like, yeah, in the end, it feels like it falls flat. Where it's just like, what is their purpose? They feel like they're just scattered. Like they can't figure themselves out.
I mean, let's just go through like
for anything
the events of the episode. So that happens. May picks the lock on the one side of the binders that she's in. Did you notice that? She only picks the one side, and then both of her hands come free. Yeah, it's just
I didn't
like
notice
a
that.
Stupid minor detail, but it's like something that someone would have thought of. So anyone else would have been like, "Oh, she pops one hand free, and then maybe like force pushes Soul into the side of the ship, and then takes a moment to recover, and in that time, she would like pick the other one real quick, and then she's free." But no. They just needed her to get free real quick. So she got free real quick. She hops into the escape ship, starts flying away. Soul pursues her. He starts locking onto her ship. And then, like, I didn't think that he was going to take a shot at her or anything. But then you got this stupid little mole rat that comes along and starts ripping wires out of the ship. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? What is he doing? They're flying through the fucking rings. Little mole rat disables the ship for no reason, because before this, he'd been like fighting May. It was presumably the one that told Soul that May was Osha, because Soul's too much of a dumbass to figure that out for himself.
Yeah, for real.
May crash lands on the fucking uninhabited planet, apparently close enough to run to the old witch's... What they say used to be like a power station or something like that?
I think so, or something
maybe a
along
mining
those
facility.
lines.
I can't remember.
I think it might have been.
So she is back there. At the same time, Kamir and Osha are having their romantic little moments. Osha's got the helmet on, and then she starts going like witchy mode, and I have no fucking clue what was going on there. She uses her witch powers, or I guess like unintentionally uses her witch powers and like gets in Kamir's head, and then Kamir, it looks like he uses the Force through the helmet to like get Osha back into her right mind, which is weird because the whole Magneto helmet thing that they presented in the show would say that he can't do anything with the Force through the helmet. So
not very impervious, huh?
A fucking mess.
Yeah, I think the helmet's stupid. It shouldn't have been introduced. It makes sense.
Yeah. May escapes from Soul. Gets on the escape shit. You got your little weasel dude who pulls the power on it. On the main Jedi shit. So that Soul presumably can't shoot her, even though I don't think he was going to. And if they were leading us to believe that he was going to, that's a really stupid thing to try and present to your audience.
Yeah.
Then May crashes. She lands on this uninhabited planet. Happens to be close enough to run to the old witch facility. At the same time, you got Kamir and Osha who have their whole little helmet scene. The Force being used through the helmet is fucking ridiculous and makes no sense given that it's got Magneto rules. They show up at the same time.
Yeah.
Osha's like, oh, I'm going to have to hack into the elevator to get it working again. And Kamir just disappears, presumably climbed up the side or something, even though they could have showed us that.
Oh, yeah. No, he just like... What was the conversation? Like, didn't he and Soul have a conversation where Soul was like, oh, yeah, like, something about trying to get in. He was just like, for you, it'll be tough, and it's just like gone. Like, it felt very cheesy, like he was trying to be, like, purposely trying to be very mysterious.
They're trying to make him this, like, fucking anime character, basically. So, Osha somehow, through the console, manages to get power back to the elevator, even though I'm pretty sure we saw the generators for this place exploding back whenever it was on fire. So it doesn't make any sense why or how she could get power to the elevator and get the elevator working again when the whole fucking place burned down and exploded and all sorts of shit. So then you see Soul run around up top, and he's hearing like the screams of the past and other stupid shit, and Kamir shows up. They fight, and the whole fight is just like, it's based off of choreography from other things. So you get this hallway sequence, which is very reminiscent of Revenge of the Sith. You get this stupid slow motion scene where like the wire work is just
that
bad.
Was so bad.
The wire work in it looks really fucking bad, and it's really so obvious.
Bad. Yeah. Do you know what we skipped?
What did we skip?
What was the deal with the? Is that Darth Plagueis in the cave?
God.
Is that what they're trying to tease?
Yeah, when Osha and Kamir fly off of the planet, you get this like goofy ass golem scene from Fellowship of the Ring, where like golem retreats.
Was that when they were flying off?
Because like the ship flies, and the scene is like shot from inside the cave, so you see like the cave walls, the mouth of the cave. The ship flies out and goes up, and then the camera, it cuts and it's looking back into the cave, and you get this creepy little dude stick his little fucking hand on the wall and peer around the corner, and it's like, that's Darth Plagueis. That's what he fucking looks like, and that's it. So Darth Plagueis, who by the way, according to ye old lore, which I'm pretty sure they immediately changed for this stupid fucking show on Wikipedia or whatever. Like, Darth Plagueis would have been like 15 years old tops at the time when the show happens. It's so stupid. And everyone's been calling moments like that key jangles. And that's exactly what it feels like. It's like, oh, here's all the little baby stupid Star Wars fans who every time they see something that's like, that's something from somewhere else in Star Wars, jangle, 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 look at the keys. It's like, yeah, because everyone else watching that went, what the fuck was that?
Bad.
So, yeah, you got Kamir, Soul having this fight. At the same time, you've got Osha and May have found each other, and they're going fight, and they're using the exact same fighting style against each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like so on the nose, so flagrantly stupid, dude. It's just so stupid. It's not interesting whatsoever.
Well, and I mean this, we get the culmination of, dude. I wanna say some dumb sarcastic shit, but it's just really bad. Like the culmination of like the fight, and like when we finally get
so May gets away from Osha, finds herself out there with Kamir and Soul has won the fight with Kamir, and then May is like, just admit that you killed my mom or whatever, and he's like, fine, I admit it. And it's such a stupid moment, because he already told her. It's
like, yeah, well, it's just like, we're also like, I feel like the showrunners think we're all fucking dumb, because they really just had to get Soul to like blatantly run us through the entire plot. Like, there was no subtlety. There was like, it's just like, yeah, I had to kill your mother because she was here creating fucking life from a virgin's.
Yeah, and
you're not twins or the same person.
There's an implication in that conversation too that he killed her because she was powerful. But whenever you saw last episode, you saw that he killed her because it looked like she was a fucking demon who was doing weird ass demon shit with May.
Yeah.
Like you saw the smoke trails starting to come off of May, and he's like, oh fuck, and then stabs her.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know. I just like the way that he had to just like lay it all out. I don't know.
That happens. May gets him to admit it. Osha's standing there. Osha fucking force choked Soul to death.
And there you go. That's how you kill a Jedi master with no weapon.
She's holding his lightsaber at the time, and while she's choking him, the lightsaber crystal,
the
turns
Kyber
red,
crystal,
and then the next time she ignites the lightsaber, it like glows red up from the bottom to the top.
Yeah, it comes out blue and then it turns red. Kind of like when you've been searching it too much for too long.
And I just gotta say, I hate this stupid bleed the crystal lore.
Yeah,
because people
it's
are
really
like,
bad.
oh yeah, like that is in the lore. It's like, the lore from when, man? Because the only thing I found it in is like 8-year-old comics, which are still Disney lore. It's not like that's legitimate old school lore. It's like,
someone said it happens in, I think, the Jedi Survivor video game. I think I saw them like put the clips side by side, and they said like, oh, saber bleeding or Kyber crystal bleeding in Acolyte and Jedi Survivor. It's like, dude, it's dumb. It's such a cop out. It's because, like, I think this is a good argument. It's just like, okay, so what you're telling me is, at no point all of the atrocities that Anakin committed on his, as he was turning to the dark side and becoming Darth Vader, at no point him killing children, him just like going and murdering women and children of the Sand People, like none of these things were bad enough to like start changing it. And you're telling me it's also an all or nothing thing? What, you bleed it halfway and you get the purple? Is that how Mace Windu got his purple lightsaber?
It's just so stupid, man. Because it used to be like, oh, if you want a red crystal, you have to go somewhere that has Kyber crystal that is like steeped in dark side energies, and the crystal's red because of that. So if you're playing like the old KOTOR games, you would have to go into a cave. It's got a bunch of like murderous beasts in it, and then you kill all of those, and then you stomp all of their eggs, and in their eggs you'll find like a red crystal.
Yeah. No, that makes much more sense. Either that, like, either going there or like having to manually manipulate your saber. Like, I've heard that as a concept as well. It's just like you just decide to like fuck with it.
Yeah.
Either of those is a better explanation.
I went on a bit of an old man rant on Twitter/X because of this, and I was like, yeah, basically what we're saying, like, force choking someone can magically turn a lightsaber crystal red, but slaughtering a village of sand people, Jedi younglings, and other untold innocents doesn't. Like, it's just pathetic. And then I have in quotes, like, it was so evil, it turned her stolen lightsaber red. It's literally bad fan fiction writing.
No, and here's my other thing, is just like, if in her... It makes no sense, because if in her mind, like basically you were telling me that there is a universal judgment, there's a universal judgment passed out that Soul is a good guy. Because if in her mind she's doing the right thing and he is an evil person, he's a bad person and he deserves to die, then like, I think in her mind that justifies it. So like what you're telling me now is like the Force, or this like a universal power, is the judge of all people. Like, I don't really get, like, I don't get that, how that affects the physical properties of a lightsaber.
I don't either. I mean, I really, really hate the bleed the crystal lore. Like, the old idea of these crystals are rare and you have to go on a journey to find them, and like part of that old questing knight lore of like, oh, and on the journey you learn things about yourself and you discover something about yourself, and it's the process, like the way you change over that journey that results in that final product, right? Which is the crystal, which somehow represents your path that you took to get there. Like, I just think that that's way better storytelling than if you kill someone with the Force while you have a stolen lightsaber, it will make the crystal in the lightsaber, quote, bleed and change the physical components of that crystal so that it's a different color now. It's too many steps.
Yeah.
It's just bad, man. I hate it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't get it. Maybe they're trying to justify. Maybe they're trying to be like, oh, this is so that like bad guys can never have blue or green lightsabers. No matter what, they're gonna turn red. And I don't know. That's corny. It doesn't make sense. Because is it not Force Unleashed? Is it not through that entire video game that you play? Do you not play the apprentice of like Darth Vader, who has like dual blue lightsabers? Am I thinking of the right game?
I never played those. That's the Star Killer. That's that guy. That was actually Sam Witwer's introduction to Star Wars. So I appreciate those games for that aspect alone, because Sam Witwer's pretty solid and his takes on Star Wars are always very insightful.
Yeah. Yeah. At least in the first one, it looks like or no, maybe it's the second one you have dual blue lightsabers. I have no idea. Maybe I'm talking out my ass because I haven't played the games.
I think in the first one you probably have red, and then I think in the second one you're like playing at a point where he has escaped being killed by Vader, and now he's kind of like fighting against the Empire. I honestly don't know. I haven't played those games. I was a bit too old for them when they came out, so maybe they're good. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're also not really the style of game I like. I don't like those on-the-rail RPG kind of games. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I never really fucked with it. I think my dad played through them.
So,
but
while all that's happening, Jedi Master Green Piece of Wood shows up, and when she does, they scatter, except for Kamir, for some reason, like lurking in the rafters, and while she's looking at Soul's body, all of a sudden she looks up to where Kamir was, and he has disappeared. I also want to point out that she told the Jedi gang that she shows up with to go secure the perimeter within like a 5-mile click or something like that. And do you notice that they just go as a big ass fucking group on a walk through the forest? And then the stupid mole rat shows up and is like, sniff, 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 follow me. And then they all start following the stupid little fucking mole rat.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it felt like that. I mean, it didn't really feel like it was like a strike team being sent in. It felt like there was no organization.
There isn't. It's completely... Dude, they have portrayed the Jedi as being completely incompetent in this show. Like, it's such a... Let's say you wanted to show that the Jedi were not as good as they wanted to be. You would have to show them being as good as they possibly could be, and yet still coming up short somehow. Which is basically what George Lucas did with the prequels. This show just goes, oh, let's make a straw man of them. So we're going to have Jedi that lie. We're going to have Jedi that kill. We're going to have Jedi that do this stupid, a Jedi doesn't draw their weapon unless they're prepared to kill thing. But then you see them all using their lightsabers as flashlights for like every other fucking episode, basically.
Yeah. That's where the whole budget went, was to give lightsabers some cool mood lighting.
God, man. And then, like, that's another aspect of the fight between Khmer and Sol. The lightsabers look so washed out in the daylight, which leans back into where I've complained about them in the past, where, oh, we have lightsaber props that cast their own light now, so we're just going to have every fight be in the dark so that the lightsabers look as dramatic and cool as possible. But, like, they look stupid, and these we've seen how many lightsaber fights in the dark now? So many. And it's really frustrating. And then you get this one where not only are the lightsabers kind of washed out, but whenever they're clashed and they're held in a bind, it's like spitting sparks on Khmer's mask. And you're like, that hasn't happened in any other lightsaber duel. Like, if you showed me that with Kylo Ren's lightsaber, because it's that like really haggard looking raggedy blade, I would be like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like, clearly the thing is unstable in some way. But for this, where it's like, no, we've got two solid beams and they're just like spitting fucking plasma for no reason. It's just they're doing different shit. It feels like someone who read a bunch of Wikipedia articles on Star Wars got an okay from Lucasfilm to spend nearly $200 million on a fan film. That is what this show feels like to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like you said, it feels like really bad fanfic. I mean, and I kind of feel like Leslie Headland, I mean, she hasn't been shy about it. I mean, I feel like she's pretty much said that. Like, I feel like this is like stories that she like.
She's also just blatantly fucking lied, because she also said, I don't believe in making shows that have like cliffhanger endings to try and bait a second season. I like a really complete one season. And then this last episode was nothing but fucking stray hairs going off in different directions. And you're like, this whole episode is just a beg for a second season.
Yeah.
It's despicable, man.
Yeah.
They're just a bunch of fucking liars now.
Yeah. Do you think they'll get a second season?
If they made us, like, here's the thing. They're stupid enough to give the show a second season. Because they gave this an okay. They did not Batgirl this show. And what happens? You get a freaking Rotten Tomatoes score of a bunch of people who saw the first, I think, 4 episodes, probably didn't watch another freaking episode of the show, right? But so you got all these critics to watch this freaking show, and they're like, oh, this is refreshing. This is a different take on Star Wars. And then you have everyone else who's actually watched it, who at this point have been putting in the audience ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. And then you have shit like what happened with my review of it on Rotten Tomatoes, where whenever I go to my TV show reviews, nothing shows up. The only TV show that I've written a review for was The Acolyte. So I'm pretty sure they've just shadow banned my review of The Acolyte, despite the fact that, like, I didn't say anything heinous. And in let's see, today's Thursday. The episode came out Tuesday. Since Tuesday, the audience score has ticked up 3 points, which makes me think that it's happening.
Yeah, you know what? I did notice that. I feel like last I checked, I felt like it was at 12%. So I feel like it went up like 4 points. So I'm showing a 16 now.
For me, the last time I saw it, I know it did get down to 12, but then I think it kind of leveled out at 13, and now it's come out to 16.
Okay.
Which, I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of people are like, oh, review bombing doesn't help. Review bombing doesn't say anything. Look at what happened with Helldivers, right? Sony tried to pull some shit with Helldivers. Everyone went on, stuck a bad review in, and they said they're trying to change things. They're not being fair to their community. I'm not going to reverse my review until this gets fixed. The only way an audience can communicate with the people making this stuff is through reviews. So let's say, like, realistically, the show is probably not a 0 out of 10. But even a 30 out of 100, a 30% audience score for this show would be too high, in my opinion. Like, this thing made in a vacuum, where this was not a piece of Star Wars media, there would still be so many fucking holes with it that it's insane. Made in the context of Star Wars, it's even worse. So if this was not a Star Wars show, I would probably give this a 3 out of 10 and be like, this is dog shit, it didn't make sense, and it was bad. Within the context of Star Wars, it has rewritten several characters' canon lore. It has portrayed an institution that at this point in time, as far as the lore goes, is supposed to be like at the height of their power, which is to say they're doing all the right things within the realm of Star Wars. Like, the Jedi were like truth, justice, and the American way for space at that time.
Yeah.
And yet this show has portrayed them as incompetent, malicious, evil, liars. I think they tried to portray them as murderers, but they kind of failed at that because every time they killed people, it was actually fairly justified.
Yeah, I'd agree. I feel like what they tried to, George Lucas did a good job of portraying a kind of like at the collapse of the Jedi Order, like what we see in the prequels. I feel like he did a very good job of like portraying like these people who like kind of got a little full of themselves. They were hot shit. They've been hot shit for a while, but like he did a good job of portraying like it's. I mean, you could look at it as like, yeah, they were like dumb or like a little pompous or like a little like a little too full of themselves, but at the same time, like, I mean, Sidious was just sneaky. Like he did a good job.
And like a lot of people say that too, like, oh, it was the hubris of the Jedi that led to their downfall. No, it wasn't. Like 100%, it was Palpatine out fucking smarted them. Literally outsmarted them.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I think they tried to do that same sort of thing with this, but it's like the problem is you're doing this at an era where like the Jedi are supposed to be hot shit and have their shit together. Like, but my thing is like Palpatine, Sidious, like he acted when he did because he probably recognized like the Jedi were at a weaker state. Like, if you got to think like, if we're trying to say, which it very much seems like we're trying to rewrite the story of like the Sith were existing at this time, not extinct, why would they not have acted if they realized that these Jedi were so incompetent and so weak? Why would they not have acted sooner and done something similar to what the way Sidious brought them down and brought down the Republic and created the Empire?
Yeah, I mean, because arguably the Jedi as we see them in this show are so incompetent that it would not have taken much more than a political movement to have them destroyed. The Jedis they're portrayed in the Phantom Menace, right, is they're respected and they're feared by evil people. You have the Trade Federation that knows that they're up to no good, and they're scared of the Jedi because of what the Jedi represent, which is truth, justice.
Yeah, and I mean, they just from episode 1 they do a good job of portraying that. When you see like when you see the was it the Viceroys like on the Trade Federation ship, and they realize that the envoy that the Republic has sent are Jedi, you see the fear in them. Like they're like, oh shit, we're dealing with Jedi, like we're fucked.
100%.
So, I mean, even at that state, they were still feared, and like their power was recognized. And it feels like, I don't know, like at this point during the Acolyte, like they were at an even higher power. You think they would show a little bit more competency.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, so, and just
garbage.
To further harp on that Rotten Tomatoes point, my review did not say anything derogatory, right, towards women, people of color, anything like that. My review was entirely within the realms of film and TV review. So I talked about how the dialogue was bad, how there are blatant plot holes, how it disrespects and goes against the lore of the established lore of the universe that this show is taking place in. Like, as reasonable a review as I could write without just being like, this show fucking pisses me off. And it still, as far as I can tell, got removed. So this is the same thing that is the same thing that happened with Rings of Power.
They're protecting Disney.
Yeah. Like, because I told you my Rings of Power review got deleted too, right?
So that was on Amazon. You did.
My Rings of Power review got deleted, despite the fact that I was like, these are established characters and not behaving the way they were written. Like, this is foolishness. This whole show is pointless. It doesn't make sense. It blatantly disrespects Tolkien's lore. And that's the exact same way I feel about this show within the context of Star Wars. Like, it's foolishness. It's pointless. It doesn't respect or even appreciate, it feels like to me. It doesn't appreciate Star Wars lore. This felt like an opportunity for someone to A, collect a check, and B, put their stamp on a franchise so that they could say that they could on a resume. That's all this feels like to me.
Yeah. Again, I mean, we got a showrunner who probably shouldn't have been given this show in the first place.
Oh my god,
and
we
why?
didn't even get to the most egregious point of the episode. So Vernestra Rose, she goes back, and she's been having this whole side story with one of the freaking politicians from the Senate, and he's like, you Jedi are just a cult, and I don't think you guys are in control of your emotions as much as you are. And you're like, yeah, well, the ones in the show certainly are, but that's not how the Jedi are supposed to be portrayed. So, rip. Then, Vernestra covers up all the events of this show and goes to the Senate, and this Senate committee, right, who was like, we don't think that the Jedi are as good as they claim to be. She goes, no, the events that happened were just because we had one rogue Jedi who killed a bunch of other Jedi and then killed himself. And you're like, holy shit, dude. The cover-up for this show, for the events that happen in this show, is literally worse than the events that happened in the show.
Yeah. I mean, it also just adds to that, like, that feeling of like incompetency. It's just like you're passing this off as like a Jedi, like a rogue Jedi, like did all this and like killed himself.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And then not only that.
Yeah.
But then she goes, and the last scene of the show is her walking into her room and it panning down so that you see the back of Yoda's head and her saying, I need to talk to you about something. Motherfucker, dude, you pulled in Grand Master Yoda, the guy that no one else,
jangling those keys.
No one else has had the balls to seriously fuck with Yoda's character. And if you're gonna tell me that Yoda was party and parcel to this cover-up thing that they're trying to say happened in this show, you have completely destroyed the character of Yoda.
Yeah.
To say that he would participate in a cover-up like this takes him from like the spiritual center of the Star Wars universe and like utterly corrupts that idea.
Well, and don't forget, this completely just, I mean, it just shits on everything in regards to the like the surprise of like the Sith coming back around. If you're gonna tell me he's involved and he has knowledge of this, then you're telling me he very much was aware that there was like, we had some Sith activity going on at this point. So then when we come back around to the prequels, when we discover, when Darth Maul and Sidious come around and they're all like, oh, the Sith have like...
Yeah, because the way they get around that is like, well, Soul died, and Soul and I think Soul, May, and I guess Osha now are the only ones who knew that Chimera was a self-proclaimed Sith.
Yeah.
None of them have communicated that to the Jedi whatsoever.
Fair.
Right? So you can at least say that.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got Darth Maul's like one line in Phantom Menace. At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have our revenge. At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. This motherfucker in this show revealed himself to the Jedi.
Yeah.
So the weight of that statement of the Sith have not even revealed themselves to the Jedi for over a millennia, for 1,000 generations.
Yeah.
Is utterly destroyed.
It's just bad all around. And here's my thing is, like, we had season 1. We watched season 1 because we started it to see what it was about, and it just went downhill from there. If season 2 comes out, I'm not planning to watch it. I don't know that we should do it for the podcast. In all honesty, I feel like there'd be a lot of people that are the same way. Like, they tried it out, and a lot of people hated this fucking show. And they only watched it because, you started watching it to see if it had potential. And you just, some people just, they see it out. So it's if you do a season 2, I would reckon it would fail miserably.
Yeah. Yeah. Legitimately.
There's no point.
For being someone who loves Star Wars, right? You'll get people online, they're like, another white guy on the internet who makes his whole personality one thing, right? And it's like, Star Wars isn't my whole personality. Star Wars, I would say, is not... It's maybe had, an effect on my personality. I appreciate certain things. Honesty, determination. I don't know. Those tenets of being a Jedi, I think those are things that you should strive to be, and I know that I come up short, but I try to be better than I am, and I think that's what a Jedi is. It's definitely it was a foundational part of who I am, right? And for that to just be broken, to feel like that was broken by this show, it straight up, it affected my mental state. The past 2 days since I watched that last episode, I was like, well, this fucking sucks. And I keep seeing my Star Wars shirts in the closet, and I'm like, I don't even want to wear these. I don't want people to know.
Yeah.
I don't want strangers to look at me and think that I might possibly like this stuff that they've been making.
Yeah. Yeah. It's over. It's done.
Yeah. And the numbers for the show aren't good either. The show had 20% of the viewership of, I think, the last premiere of The Mandalorian. It's season 3, I think. 20% of those numbers. Let's assume you had 100% of Star Wars' fan base, which I don't think is true. You lost 80% of your fan base since 2019. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You lost 80% of your fan base in 5 years. How do you keep going with this?
Yeah, they either have to make major changes, or I don't know. At this point, they just have to make major changes. They're not going to give up Star Wars. They're not going to give up the IP. It'd be better if they did. Give it to fucking HBO or something.
You have this idea in Hollywood, right? That by going into these the diversity, equity, and inclusion ideas, that you're expanding your audience. But this show just goes to show that it doesn't matter how diverse, equitable, or inclusive your show is. If it fucking sucks, it fucking sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because, we've talked about it. The diversity, equity, inclusion, that's there's not a problem with having a diverse cast or doing something like that. But I think I had this conversation with a coworker or someone where I was like, the problem is you focus too hard on who you want to cast as the star and then try to build a story around them, instead of just building a good story from the ground up and then casting based on the characters you've created. It is kind of what it feels like. It just, I don't know, just write a good story and then go from there.
Like, look, don't make these characters any race, gender, or ethnicity or anything else, any sexuality, none of that. Just make them gray fucking blobs. And if the story doesn't work with them as gray fucking blobs, then it's a bad story that shouldn't be made. And that's exactly what this show is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think you focus, just, make everyone gray blobs, write a story, and then fill in the blanks afterwards. Because it's like, if you have a good story where everyone's just a fucking blob, it has no personality, like, then it's going to be a good story. Because you can fill in those blanks and have people that actually have personality and have, like, cool things about them. And then you're just building on top of the good story.
They will bring something to that performance that probably lends it more life than anything else, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I had this random weird thought today. I was like, dude, if I was going to fix Star Wars, the first thing I would do is I'd be like, fuck all this shit. I'm making a show that takes place 1,000 years before any of this shit. It's in the middle of, like, the last war between the Sith Empire and the Republic. And I think my big bad guy would be, like, Idris Elba with the Sith eyes contacts.
That'd be dope.
Where he's just like a fucking stone cold killer. And he's got sick ass armor, big, brutal red lightsaber. And he's just like this murderous motherfucker that then, like, a ragtag group of heroes has to, like, come together to beat him because he's literally too fucking good.
Yeah. Instead of giving me a dumbass lightsaber whip, give me, like, 2 hilts smashed together, just, like, parallel. That's like a lightsaber broadsword. And Idris Elba wielding it with armor.
Yes.
Yeah. See, we could fucking write it. We could do it. But no. Disney's got to fucking ruin everything.
Yep.
Well. You got anything else? You've been doing anything else? I know you saw Maxine. I sold him too, so we can talk about that.
We'll wait until you see that to talk about that. I don't know. These last 2 days, I've just been in a haze. Like, when I say that this show affected my mental state, like, I'm not kidding. Like, I've felt depressed for these past 2 days.
Yeah. Well, fucking sucks seeing something you love, like one of your favorite things, just get completely ruined, and there's no sign that it's ever going back.
Yep.
Brutal.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do. Part of me is like,
yeah,
man, I really need to, like, dig into some shit from, like, the 1800s that I know that no one will ever fuck with.
Yeah.
Man, there was this playwright in 1820, dude. His shit was off the hook. But, I mean, dude, like, there's nothing else like Star Wars. And to see it reduced to this, like, just plebeian gutter trash is really disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one day it'll become so unprofitable it'll get sold off to someone who will do it justice.
They will, because they're
and
so
they can
bitter and petty.
I know.
Like, you've still got Kathleen Kennedy saying, like, getting more women in Star Wars is our priority, and it's like, brother, it's all women.
Yeah.
Like, I guess 3 is more than 2, but if you're at 100%, you're still at 100%, man.
Yeah. Well, no. The hope would be, like, if it just got to a point, they'd have to sell it, and then someone could just do what they did to the entire expanded universe, be like, all this shit is bupkis. It doesn't fucking matter. You know, just blow the whole thing up and start from scratch.
Yeah. Because you know what's funny? Because I guess we can kind of talk about this in retrospective too, because we've seen the whole series now. Leading up to this series, like, all of its promotion was DEI, which I think it failed on because, I mean, I thought we were gonna stop Asian hate, but here we are killing the Asian guy. Alrighty, very diverse and inclusive.
And he was like one of the only good characters too.
Because Isaac and I got into a bit of an argument last podcast episode about Amandla Stenberg. Amandla Stenberg, this episode was fucking terrible. Even when she's supposed to be full of like rage
really
and hate for this guy that apparently killed her mother, she's a fucking plank, dude. A plank. And
yeah. No, I'd agree on that.
Like, this is an issue with the writing here. She should have been way more conflicted about killing him because she had known him for longer than she knew her mother at this point. They were, 10 years old when that stuff happened? And this is 16 years later, I think?
Yeah. I also am just curious. So, like, Venestra, is she just like a human painted green?
Seems like it.
Because I'm like, I feel like I've looked at her and I've been like, what? Like, is there any? What are we going for here? Because I feel like this is the first time we've like had any sort of like alien species where it's just like, we're just gonna not put any sort of prosthesis on you or anything to like. Well, you have no other defining features. You are just a straight humanoid with green skin.
You had the Chiss that were blue people with red eyes. And at one point they were pupilless red eyes, but they've changed that more recently. So
yeah, it's like at least it's a feature.
Yeah, but they were also like very chiseled facial structure.
Yeah,
I mean that's not much of a difference, but it was something, because they were supposed to have this like highly militaristic society, which is why the Empire, they were one of the few alien races that the Empire would allow into the military, which is why you get like Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah.
But yeah, she is, as far as we can tell in this show, just a green human with diamonds painted all over her. I think because of the lore of the High Republic, her race lives much longer than humans, it seems like. Because I know she's like a Padawan in some of the earlier High Republic stuff, and I think that stuff was like I think the earliest stuff is like 200 years before this show. I'm not really sure. The whole High Republic thing, I've been so disinterested in it. And apparently I'm not the only one, because whenever you look at the book sales started off pretty good, and then they immediately fell off, which is crazy, because apparently the numbers behind that are Disney put like $1 billion into trying to get the books published, promoted, and sold. And there are box sets of High Republic stuff that have not sold quadruple digit numbers, which is like unheard of for Star Wars books. Apparently, there isn't a single High Republic trilogy, book, series, anything that outsells the original Tron trilogy. Yeah. Which says a lot about the state of Star Wars, like Disney Star Wars. The original Tron, the original Thrawn trilogy, which came out, I want to say in like the late 80s, is still outselling their shit.
Jeez.
Because it's not like those are used book numbers. Those are new printings of those books. Baffling. But then, if you remember, there was a lot of hubbub whenever the High Republic books were coming out, because they had a character that was the navigator for the ship that they were in, and it was literally a fucking rock. Literally a rock.
Okay, I guess technically Vernestra is of the, what is it? Mirial? How do you even say that?
Oh, is she Mirialan?
Mirialans? Yeah. Which is a near human species, and they can have skin color of a variety of colors. Blue, green, olive, pink, purple, yellow. And different colored hair. And then different colored eyes. And they'd have facial tattoos. But that's my thing, is like she only has like tattoos on her head. Like I didn't notice any on her face. Most of the other art and depictions I see like at least have them on their face to like make them look cool. I mean,
she's got the stuff coming down from her temple, but there's not much.
Yeah.
And her picture on Wikipedia, it looks a lot more like a bald cap there.
Damn.
I don't know. I feel like she looks like her head is actually shaved in the show. Do you feel that way? I'm probably wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting they made her bald in the show because you see like depictions from expanded universe stuff. It's just got like purple hair.
So Luminara Unduli, who was a pretty, I don't know, not prominent. I mean, her and Barazofi, they go all the way back to the Gendy Tartakovsky Clone Wars. There were characters in that. They're both Mirialion. But yeah, it looks like they typically have like more prominent facial tattoos or something. Yeah, so it looks like they are tattoos, and it usually happens after you've completed a certain task or achievement or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that Star Wars lore. Yeah, I don't know, man. If Star Wars keeps being this bad, I might turn alt-right.
Oh my god, Jesus. It's like, how did we lose Andrew? Well, Disney just fucked up one more Star Wars show, and then we lost him.
Let's talk about world events, dude. It's been so hot in Florida, and the mosquitoes are so bad that I had this fucking mosquito the size of a bullet hit me in the ear, dude. I was bleeding all over the place, man.
God.
That is a really interesting thing, though, right? Because obviously what we're alluding to, this is July 18th, 2024, 5 days ago. There was a assassination attempt on President Donald Trump at one of his rallies. The bullet hit him in the fucking ear, which is insane.
Yeah. Apparently he turned his head just in time, which is wild.
Hit him in the fucking ear. The internet, the political sphere has fucking erupted into pure chaos at this point.
Let me tell you what. The fucking memes were gold.
Insane. The memes are insane.
They were good.
The number...
They're still going.
The number of memes about federal agents and sloped roofs has been so fucking funny, dude.
Yeah.
The people that are like posting literal cow on a slightly sloped roof. The number of people posting, I don't blame the feds for being scared of sloped roofs, and then it's that like very famous window scene from Waco where the ATF tried to go through the window and basically got forcibly defended away from it. It's crazy. And whenever you look into, I mean, obviously I don't know how the fuck this even happened. Because every time you hear about like presidential candidate or former president or something, it's like they got a fucking gaggle of secret security or secret service with them as security at all times. So the fact that there was an unsecured roof at this freaking rally is insane. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like I also heard somewhere that like that roof, like the building, of that roof, it was like the actual like outpost. Like that's where like the police were set up.
Yeah, I heard that there were Secret Service agents in the building, and that was apparently how they had secured the building, but there was no one on the roof.
Wild.
Because, and there was an interview with whoever was in charge of the security detail or whatever, or head of the Secret Service, I'm not sure, but this lady was like, yeah, the sloped roof presented a, like, hazardous whatever, like, we didn't want to put people in danger. You look at the roof, there's a minor fucking slope to the roof. It's not even like a house roof. It's a very...
I was gonna say it looks like a prefab. Like it just looks like some like metal. I didn't get a good look at it. I haven't
sloped metal roof. Yeah, like a warehouse roof.
That's what I thought.
It's not like you have like big anti-snow. What do they call those? Like A-frame roofs. You know?
Oh
like,
yeah.
It was a very minor slope.
Yeah. No, I mean. Put everyone in a tizzy. It presented an amazing photo op.
Oh, dude,
I mean,
are great. Like,
that one photo. I mean,
him blood down the face.
I saw that and I was like,
Secret Service agents on him, and him fist up with the
fist in the air. with the American flag in the background. I was like, dude, I saw that and I went, it's over. It's fucking Jover, dude. It's so Jover.
200 years from now, that fucking picture is going to be in history books.
Oh, yeah. It'll be getting doodled all over by some snot-nosed little 14-year-olds. Drawing penises in his hand, raised up in the air.
And then, like,
for sure.
Because here's the thing, and we've said this before on the podcast. We're not a pro-violence podcast. We're not going to be. I'm not going to condone violence ever, except in, like, self-defense. Definitely not ever going to condone political violence. Fake violence is
okay
fake
in
violence,
movies.
Very fun. It's the point of the podcast, basically. MMA, might talk about it. Boxing, might talk about it. It's fun stuff.
WWE.
But the number of people who, even just as a joke, did the "is it bad that I'm a little sad they missed?" is like, have you not read history? Do you know what happens when people get assassinated? Things get worse. They always get worse.
Oh, yeah.
People become more militant, they become more hateful, and it just gets worse.
I was going to say, I mean, the dude would have gone down a martyr, and you would have had, I feel like you could very well have had like another January 6th sort of situation on your hands. Like, people would have, like, his base would have been in an absolute uproar.
Imagine all the little things we pointed out about, like, why this kid being able to take any shots at all was already weird. If he had died from this, it would have been even weirder.
Yeah.
And then what's most insane, too, is that this kid was in a BlackRock commercial.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that. The conspiracies run deep on it.
There is a lot of fuel for conspiracies with this, which is frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just crazy. Crazy. Yeah. I was crazy.
It's that's some wild. I mean, dude, let me tell you, when I found out, I was deep in the pocket. I had been day drinking. I had gone on the Kansas City Mafia history tour, where they just drive you around on like a big old, it's like one of those buses you used to take on like school trips, like the long school trips, like Washington, D.C. They take you on like a full-on bus. And you know, like with the laws in Missouri, you can drink it in a moving vehicle as long as there's one less container than there are people. Because obviously the driver. So yeah, we were day drinking, learning some history about the mob activities in Kansas City. Very interesting. And then went to a swanky jazz club, had some cocktails. I'm leaving. That's when the news breaks. I just turn everyone. I go, oh shit! Like, Trump just got shot. Everyone was like, what?
Yeah,
that was wild.
I mean, Shelby came in. She was like, Trump got shot, and I was like, huh? And then she went, yes, it hit him in the ear. And I went, huh? I was like, is he dead?
Yeah.
And then, oh my god, man, the fact that it just grazed his ear is like so crazy. And then the people that are like, oh, clearly it was fake. It was a like setup, or anyone who's trying to claim that this shit was like a fake attempt on his life is fucking insane. Like, professional shooters will tell you that shot would have been impossible.
Yeah.
To fucking graze someone's ear, dude.
That's wild.
Like, you can't fathom how difficult a shot that would be. For that angle, who knows about the wind, dude, it's it's crazy.
Yeah.
But then you've got like,
we lived through another,
and it's already like affecting the social atmosphere, right? Because you had Jack Black and the other guy, what's their band?
Kyle Gass.
Yeah, so
Tenacious
D got deported from Australia over a joke, quote joke, that Gas made on stage about next time don't miss, and they got deported from Australia for it.
I didn't know they got like full on deported. I just heard they had to cancel their tour.
It was pretty much looking like they were going to get deported. So I think they kind of preemptively just canceled it, and like the backlash from that, backlash over a joke like that, I feel like I would say from what I've seen online, a lot of very left-leaning, maybe not left-leaning, maybe deep left people think that that's like a super fine joke to make. And pretty overwhelmingly, the internet has been like, no, not cool.
Yeah. Okay, so they didn't get deported. There was just one senator calling for their deportation. But I mean, they left anyways because they canceled their tour, and there's no point in staying. But I know, like, because that was the whole thing, is like, I know Jack Black came out and like
literally the next day
basically
apologized about it.
Had to denounce it. Yeah. Well, and people were saying, like, obviously he's got all kinds of deal, like it was more so like a damage control thing, because I don't know, people were saying like, oh, he turned on Kyle.
Even Kyle, I think, apologized.
Yeah.
They apologized. Forget it. You know, that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and they said something stupid in a moment, but
yeah,
you know, yeah, we're living through once again another major historical event.
And then like the streaming sphere.
Oh, of course.
Like Destiny went fucking unhinged, got demonetized on Twitter, got banned off of Kick over similar jokes.
Getting banned off Kick is wild, which I don't think it's justified, because there's so much other fucking nonsense that goes on.
There's like literally pedophilia going on Kick.
You're gonna, dude, you're gonna ban him, and you're not gonna crack down on like the actual illegal shit going on your site. Kick is such a fucking cesspool. Oh, yeah. It's so bad.
But then you got like, so you have that going on with him. Then you've got like irrelevant Hassan going, as soon as he sees it, going, he's clip farming. Brother, get off the fucking internet, man. Go outside. This dude is so terminally online. They all are, man. Like, it's insane. Oh.
Yeah. It's
just to further expand on what I said earlier. Do not condone political violence in any way. Not against Trump, not against Biden, not against any minor member of either political party. If you have a disagreement with someone, you should be able to have a conversation about it. And that's the way things are supposed to be here in America.
Yep. I feel like we've moved too far away from that.
And I think you should be able to be friends with people who have different political opinions than you.
Yeah.
There should be better ties that bind us than whether or not you vote red or blue.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm exhausted. Star Wars has exhausted me. Political atmosphere of America has exhausted me. If you want to read my unhinged rants on Twitter/X, you can do that at CryptidWorks YT. Follow Scott for symbolic reasons. Can do that at Bad
I've been active. Pod. Don't worry, I'll be active.
Yeah, I've been trying to get in arguments with people, and I almost got in one with a guy, but he
dude, it's tough. They just tend to ignore you. It sucks.
Yeah,
we're on the wrong side to get into arguments. If we were on the other side where we were trying to fucking defend what Disney's doing with Star Wars, then I feel like we could more easily pick fights.
You can tell I was really going for something with this one. July 17th, but this was the night that I watched that episode. And the first thing I said, other than my text to you and Isaac, was I went on Twitter and was like, witnessing this show was one of the biggest embarrassments of my adult life. Hashtag the Acolyte didn't cost $180 million. Someone needs to audit at Lucasfilm. At Star Wars is dead. Looking forward to the hashtag Star Wars funeral with at film threat. I got one dude who he said lol K, and then he posted the picture of the crystal inside of the lightsaber, and then OSHA with the lightsaber going from blue to red. And I was like, what does this mean?
Jesus.
I was trying.
Alright.
All right. So that's Twitter, X.
Patreon.
If you wanted to become a space wizard, fight back against the lesbian space witch hegemony, you can do that at our Patreon. patreon.com/badpipespodcast. It's $1 to become a space wizard, and it's $10 for a seat on the council. If you want to email us for some reason, you can do that. badpipespodcast@gmail.com. Is that it? Is that all the social?
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's it.
I hope you have a better week than I've been having. Bye.